Hi everyone, welcome to VRC with Gaurav. In this video today, we are going to solve passage number 26 from the book RC99 by Aristotle Prep. Without delay, let's begin. If you're new to my channel, this is a very brief bio of mine. If you're looking for a no-nonsense, straightforward VRC coaching for CAT exam as well as other OMET exams, you can hit me up on this mail ID or you can call me up directly on this number, or maybe if you want to check out, this is my website. Okay. Chalo, without any delay, let's get started. This is the passage number 26. As usual, I recommend that you pause the video here, read the passage on your own, then use the timestamps that I'm going to put in the description box to access the questions. Jot down your answers on a piece of paper. Have a timer running in parallel from the moment you start solving the passage. Then come back to this point to check the explanation. Okay. Now, assuming that you have read the passage, let's try to break it down. Let's try to understand. First of all, this RC passage falls pretty much strongly in the domain of science-based passages. Okay? Not your regular animal-based or plant-based type, but proper hardcore science and a little bit of technicalities thrown here and there. So depending on your background, you might find this RC doable or quite tough. If you're someone from a non-technical background, let's say an arts graduate, maybe this could feel quite challenging if you're not used to reading from a lot of different sources, if you're not used to reading technical stuff. Whereas if you come from technical backgrounds, let's say proper top economics grad or a very good engineering background, then yes, this might feel pretty much at home. Okay. So that is why I cannot go ahead and say, "Ye passage easy tha, ya ye passage difficult and you should get so and so accuracy and so timing." It depends on your background completely. Uh, anything is possible. Okay. So chalo, let's try to figure out the reasonable explanation for this. Okay. Okay. So what does the passage start talking about is, instead of walking you through line by line, I'll deal with the entire information block wise. So what the first couple of paragraphs talk about is this. But hydrocarbons. Now, when I say hydrocarbons, you should imagine crude oil, okay, which is called as kacha tel, mitti ka tel in Hindi, basically from which we extract petroleum, diesel, all kinds of fossil fuels. Okay? Coal and all is different. Right now, for all purposes, just imagine crude oil. In the passage, they are using the word hydrocarbons for it. Okay? Now, what is said, it is formed deep inside the earth, then it starts rising up. Okay? Because there are a lot of cracks and pores inside the earth's surface, and keep a surface completely inside the earth. Also keep in mind, earth is not hollow within. Okay? It is completely solid right down to its inner core. Completely solid. When I say, of course, you have to imagine a lot of rock, very hard rocks below the earth's surface. हम जितना dig करते हैं, at max mankind has gone barely beyond the surface. Earth is very deep. So deep inside, it's all a lot of rocks, a lot of geology and everything is happening inside. So the passage says that this crude oil, which is formed deep inside the earth, starts rising up. And then gradually, when it is rising, it can travel through rocks, it can travel through cracks and pores which might be there inside the earth. And finally, it reaches the surface from which it can come out. Okay? If at all it finds an opening. But obviously, the crude oil which manages to reach the surface and escape into the Earth's atmosphere, maybe, obviously, that is of no use to us. What is of use to us is the oil, the hydrocarbon, which is trapped inside the Earth, and we can access it. How exactly? So, this is the mechanism that is explained. Please try to pay attention. First of all, you need to understand the meaning of the terms permeable and impermeable. Permeable means वो thing जो पकड़ के रख सकता है कोई liquid को खुद के अंदर. Very easy example for this would be let's say sponge or sponge, depends on what you pronounce it as. ठीक है, ये सभी ने देखा है बचपन से. पानी पकड़ के रख सकता है, and when you squeeze it, obviously the water will come out. So sponge is an excellent example of something permeable, जिसके अंदर absorb होके कोई liquid can stay inside. ठीक है, and impermeable, almost all things that we encounter in daily life. Very easy example would be, let us say, plastics or glass, कांच जिसको हम कहते हैं, right? Does glass absorb water inside it? Obviously not. ठीक है? So ऐसे दो layers of rocks is very important. Author says that inside the earth, crude oil is traveling through rocks which are permeable, meaning they can absorb the liquid inside, and maybe by absorption the liquid will keep on traveling upwards. But the travel is not unlimited. Soon that liquid, this crude oil, let's say, which is floating around in this permeable rock. It tries to move upwards, but soon it will encounter an impermeable rock. So what does this impermeable rock? Imagine that ये नीचे sponge है और ऊपर एक कांच का टुकड़ा आपने रख दिया. Can the water move out from the sponge into the glass? Obviously it can't. ठीक है. So this is how crude oil is present deep inside the earth. So we can say that this permeable rock over here, this is now a reservoir of this crude oil, of this hydrocarbon, whereas this impermeable rock जो पानी या सॉरी इन दिस केस क्रूड ऑयल जो एब्जॉर्ब नहीं कर रहा है खुद के अंदर में, इट इज फंक्शनिंग एज अ सील, स्टॉपर ऑफ सॉर्ट. भाई तुम क्रूड ऑयल तुम नीचे ही रुको, मैं नहीं तुमको अलाउ कर रहा हूँ ऊपर ट्रैवल करना. नाउ by some means, if let us say by through thanks to some technology and anything, we are able to determine a place where this is happening. That just beneath us there is this impermeable rock, and just beneath that we have this permeable rock which has crude oil inside it. How can we access it? Process is pretty straightforward actually. The passage says that we simply go ahead, drill through it. Okay, we are going to drill through using some really good technology. We are going to go inside and pump out the crude oil from there. So what happens is that this crude oil then comes out, and from here we can take it for our use. So seems pretty straightforward, right? Now comes the technical part, that areas where this crude oil is stuck, we can use the technical term as traps. Okay. Now there are two kinds of traps which the passage talks about. Let us highlight those. I'll use proper color coding for that. Structural traps and stratigraphic traps. Let's use a different color for this. Two types of traps we are talking about here. Okay. So structural traps are actually easier to locate, and that is why most of the traps, structural types, जिसके अंदर हाइड्रोकार्बन है, जिसके अंदर क्रूड ऑयल है, they have already been found and used. उसमें से क्रूड ऑयल निकालना शुरू है या निकाला जा चुका है, end of story. But currently, given the rising demand for hydrocarbons mentioned in the second paragraph, more and more sources, more and more reservoirs for crude oil need to be found out. So next up on the list is stratigraphic traps. Now, locating stratigraphic traps and trying to extract crude oil from it, not so easy. Not so easy. We have to determine where these are located exactly and start taking crude oil from there. Now, how is it exactly done? So we have a science, dedicated science for it, which comes to our help, known as seismology. What is done in seismology? Please pay attention. Now things are going to be a bit more technical. Seismology is wherein we are at the ground over here, let us say like this. And from the ground, we are going to dispatch, we are going to send some typical waves inside the rock. Okay. So what happens exactly is this. Let's say these are the waves that we are sending. Okay. Now it's going to encounter a difference now. अभी तक तो एक type of rock था, अब दूसरा type of rock आ चुका है. They are going to be of different densities, different composition. Basically, these two are pretty much different from each other. So what this leads to is some of the waves travel through, but some of them get reflected back. And when they get reflected back, we can catch them using appropriate instruments, appropriate equipment. And these reflected waves are analyzed. Extensive computation is done, written over here. And from that, seismologists, researchers can determine that, okay, boss, yes, this reflection is very interesting. Just beneath this rock layer, there is likely to be crude oil because the type of rock is changing. Obviously, this requires a lot of research, putting together a lot of data and all. But I hope that you get the gist of the process. Once again, I'm repeating. Waves travel through, seismic waves are sent through the rock. When they encounter a drastic change from impermeable to permeable rock, from the seal to the reservoir, some of the waves are reflected back towards the surface of Earth. When we catch them, analyze them, put the data together properly, from that we can conclude that, yes, boss, very likely that there is a reservoir just beneath it. And then after that, the drilling can start and maybe we can access the crude oil. Okay? So fairly straightforward. First 3-4 paragraphs give us a basic picture of how crude oil can be extracted from inside the earth using the science and tech known as seismology. Okay, I hope that you are with me so far. Now let's try to understand the next paragraph, the fifth one, throws very important light on the limitations of this. What does it say? Pay close attention. That is reflection back. This is pretty much dependent on multiple factors. Okay? First of all, these waves, you need to understand what waves are like. They're like this. Okay, everyone has seen waves. Okay, so when these waves are reflected back, and you have to zoom into the data, you need very good resolution. What do we mean by resolution? They have spent a lot of time on this term actually. Resolution, कैमरा का resolution कैसा होता है हमारे phones में? We have 4 megapixel, 10 megapixel, 15 megapixels. ठीक है, so more than megapixels, what does it imply? That if you click a pic, and very likely if it is of a higher megapixel camera, you can zoom in ना, और आप जितना zoom in कर जाओ उतना detailing के अंदर you can see the details of the picture. वो फटेगा नहीं, it will not pixelate. ठीक है, whereas if you take a pic from a very poor camera, the resolution of the pic is going to be bad. So if you zoom in, हम कहते हैं कि picture फट गया, or that it starts to pixelate. ठीक है, so this is what is meant by resolution, the ability to get down into as small detail as possible. Okay, now in the seismic waves also thing, resolution is important. Why? Because let's say that your seismic wave is let us say एक wave का length है 1 meter. ठीक है, so what does this mean? That when you are doing this research, when you are doing this experiment and you have collected the data and all, less than 1 meter की चीजें आप zoom in नहीं कर पाओगे. Your ability to zoom in is limited to 1 meter का. उसके नीचे आपको अगर डिटेलिंग चाहिए तो जो फोटो, जो डेटा आपके पास में कैप्चर हुआ है, it will not help you get that. So why is this a problem? And by the way, please keep in mind this 1 meter is a random number taken by me. I'm obviously not implying that seismic waves are 1 meter in there. ठीक है, just an example. 1 meter के ऊपर का data you will be able to analyze the picture that you get. Let us say the scientists are able to recreate a picture over here thanks to this technology. So you will be able to zoom in and find details which are up to 1 meter in length. आप बोलोगे यार नहीं, वो फोटो के अंदर ना मुझे एक पत्थर दिख रहा है जो कि 10 सेंटीमीटर बड़ा है. Can I analyze that pathar properly? Obviously, the answer is no. And this is a very bad limitation. Why? Because when we are talking about stratigraphic traps, the kind of traps which are of prime interest right now, because structural का तो काम हमारा हो चुका है. Stratigraphic traps के अंदर the details are obviously of this 10 centimeter type range, meaning that they are less than the wavelength of seismic waves. It's given to us over here. Let me highlight it. The most common stratigraphic traps are in sandstone layers that are much thinner than a seismic wavelength. So ये तो problem हो गया. You have the technology, you have the camera in front of you. You're also able to click a picture, but you need to zoom in, but the resolution being only 2 megapixel and the job is not getting done. You need something, camera like let's say 5 megapixel, 10 megapixel, only then you will be able to zoom in, right? So इसका solution क्या है? So obviously one natural solution that comes to mind is, यार इतने बड़े wavelength क्यों use कर रहे हो आप थोड़ा shorter wavelength वाला use करो. Increase the frequency, reduce the wavelength. ठीक है? So yes, that solution has also been quoted over here, but obviously life is not so straightforward, boss. Seismic wavelets, इनका frequency increase कर सकते हैं, and when you increase the frequency, obviously the wavelength can also be reduced. So hopefully this will help solve the problem, but no. इससे दिक्कत ये आती है that when this experiment is done, because of the high frequency, a lot of noise also starts coming in. And secondly, keep in mind, and this is an important difference that we need to keep in mind, that the density difference that we require between this seal and the reservoir, between this impermeable and permeable layer, basically फर्क, नेचर में जो फर्क चाहिए आपको ये दोनों पत्थर का, जितना ज्यादा होगा उतना अच्छी बात होती है. But unfortunately, in stratigraphic traps, what we have is that this density contrast between these two rocks is ultra small, and that is why this seismology का जो आप use कर रहे हो, even if you are using higher frequency wave, the returns on that investment, the returns on this technology is very bad. It's written clear cut over here. Let me highlight it for you. The density contrast between oil bearing sandstone, meaning this permeable layer, okay, between oil bearing sandstone and the shales that provide the seals. So this layer at the top जो हमने अभी डिस्कस किया था, ठीक है, इनके बीच में जो डेंसिटी डिफरेंस है, इट इज ऑफन वेरी स्मॉल, और ये डिफरेंस बहुत कम होने की वजह से दिस रिफ्लेक्शन दैट वी नीड इट टू हैपन, कि भाई मैंने तो सेस्मिक वेव्स भेजे अप्रोप्रिएट वेवलेंथ एंड फ्रीक्वेंसी के, जो अमाउंट में मुझे रिफ्लेक्शन वापस चाहिए वो मिल ही नहीं रहा है. A lot of these waves are maybe simply passing through because there's not a lot of difference between the two kind of rocks. So this reflection in sufficient healthy amount is not happening. तो अब करे क्या यार, मतलब this is a massive headache. This is a massive shortcoming of this technology which we just discussed till that point. So is all lost? Is this technology useless? Author is not saying that. Author says कि नहीं यार चलो ठीक है, दिल इतना छोटा मत करो. There is still hope out there because recent developments such as zero phase wavelet processing, multivariate analysis of reflection. Oh my God, very very technical terms. But thankfully, what are they saying? They have increased resolution due to this tech, and in the future, we just might be able to succeed with this tech. So all in all, what is the passage talking about? Condensing it in very few 2-3 sentences, we need crude oil. It is located inside the earth. Two kinds of traps are there: structural traps, stratigraphic traps. Structural traps are easy. We have already accessed them, and most of the oil sources are structural only. But more and more crude oil is needed. Demand is going up. We need to start taking a look at stratigraphic traps. So what is the hurdle that we are getting there? And wherever it is present, the difference in density between the seal and the reservoir, these two layers, the density difference is not much. So the existing technology of seismology that we are using, it's not giving us very beautiful returns. We're running into a lot of problems. So what's the scenario right now? There have been some recent developments, and hopefully on the back of it, in the near future, we will succeed in accessing and in succeeding in this research and in accessing the crude oil which is present in such stratigraphic traps. That's all. That's all. Okay. So I hope that you understood the gist of the passage, the explanation which is given. I strongly recommend that you draw this entire drawing in your book or take a basic picture of it at least. Or maybe you're solving this on a laptop. Taking a pic of this using your cell phone would be advisable because we are going to require this drawing once again in question number 3. Okay. And I cannot move on to the next page for question 3. I will need to clean up the screen here itself. Okay. Chalo. Till then, please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. Goes a long way in encouraging humble creators like me. Also, if you have any doubts related to this passage, if you have not understood a particular sentence or paragraph, please let me know in the comment section. I'll try to reply to you. Moving to the first question now. Sorry. So what's the first question? As opposed to other essays written on the same topic, now obviously we have no idea on the same topic crude oil and uske extraction पे कौन पढ़ता है यार दूसरे essays. But still, question is asking, as opposed to other such write-ups, it is likely that the primary purpose of this passage is what? ठीक है. So first half of the question you need to ignore. Question is basically main idea of passage. क्या लगता है आपको main idea? Instead of putting your own mind over it, I would strongly recommend the option elimination. That's the best way to go forward. Easiest to throw out is option E. It blabbers about some private investment and all. What nonsense is this? Let's reject it. A. Explain how hydrocarbons are formed and trapped within the earth. Now, this is very, very half-baked actually. Sure, the author touches upon how hydrocarbons are formed, trapped in the earth, giving the example of structural traps, stratigraphic traps. The fourth paragraph is actually dedicated to properly understanding what is happening inside the earth. But then the immense limitation which is thrown light upon in the fifth paragraph, then sixth paragraph, very important point that dekho yaar, hydrocarbons are there inside the earth, but there is difficulty in extracting it in certain situations. That is completely missing from option A. So I'll keep it on hold right now. I'm not very much in favor of it. For me, this is a red flag type situation. Let's see B. Detail how seismologists can locate hidden deposits of hydrocarbons. This is a bit too vague. Okay. अरे वाह वाह जादूगरी करते हैं ये ढूंढ के निकालते हैं छुपा हुआ का है हाइड्रोकार्बन नथिंग लाइक दैट स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड स्टफ structural traps we are already using them stratigraphic traps current science and technology is facing limitations so this is not very much suitable let's kick it out C contrast the relative difficulty nice I like this word of locating structural traps and stratigraphic traps okay this seems like a good option I like the wording that is present here कि डिफिकल्टी है यार स्ट्रैटिग्राफिक ट्रैप्स में वी वांट टू गो देयर वी वांट टू एक्सट्रैक्ट द कॉइल फ्रॉम देयर नॉट हैपनिंग इजीली Whereas on the other hand, structural traps, as we had highlighted over here, they tend to be easier to locate and are the source of most of the known hydrocarbon reserves. So from this, we can easily infer that yes, structural R ones are easier and relatively difficult. More difficult is stratigraphic. So far, so good. Option D, discuss the formation of hydrocarbon reserves and how they can be located. Okay. So now in the face of A, C and D, अब थोड़ा सा देखो, discussion becomes subjective. You have to understand that option A is pretty much poor when compared to option C and D. Okay. So we are compelled to reject option A. Obviously, there was a red flag over it because it was not touching upon an important point of discussion. The actual execution, how they can be found, how can they be extracted, how they can be located, that part is missing in A. We just touched upon it C and D. Now, to be very honest, I am still in a dilemma over C and D. Official answer I'll give you. Official answer, obviously, it is given as option D. But somehow I cannot find myself very confidently rejecting option C. Okay? Obviously, only one can be the answer. Two can't be. So we should be able to ideally reject one option over the other, the way we rejected the other three. At this stage, no matter how many times I read and try to analyze, not able to sufficiently reject option C. Okay? So my verdict would be that if you're somebody who was able to eliminate A, B, and E, stuck in confusion between C and D, it's a good position to be in. If you got the right answer as D, amazing, congratulations, no doubt about it. But it's okay. It's okay. Sometimes the wording can be so ridiculously close, and people who are pretty much they beware negative marking in the exam, especially for repeaters, they would be able to recognize the dilemma in blindly selecting daring selection of one option over the other. Because in the exam, obviously, negative marking will come and bite you badly. Okay? So, chalo, moving ahead, going to question 2. According to passage, it is often difficult to distinguish what's a reflection from interface between oil-bearing sandstone shales that provide stratigraphic seals. पढ़ा लग रहा है ये कहाँ है ये सब कुछ कहाँ लिखा है is written straight forward over here. Please take a look at the diagram that I told you guys to draw or take a pic of. उसके अंदर बोला है ना कि this oil-bearing sandstone क्या है? नीचे का permeable stone and the shales which provide the seal वो ऊपर का क्या है? It is that red seal upwards. तो उनके बीच में डेंसिटी डिफरेंस ज्यादा नहीं है, उस वजह से इट बिकम्स वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू डिटरमाइन टू फिल्टर आउट द नॉइज एंड ऑल. तो आंसर ऑप्शन ऑब्वियसली बी बिकॉज इट इज टॉकिंग अबाउट ऑन द पॉइंट लिटिल डेंसिटी कॉन्ट्रास्ट. ठीक है. सो ऑल्दो दिस क्वेश्चन मे फील डॉन्टिंग टू सम पीपल, यू सिंपली नीड टू रिमेंबर कि ये जो कीवर्ड्स है शेल्स दैट प्रोवाइड द सील्स, ऑयल बेरिंग सैंडस्टोन, यू जस्ट नीड टू रिमेंबर कि ये वर्ड्स कहाँ आए थे and you can just go back to the passage, read that part again and get the answer. Okay, very straightforward, detail oriented question, no heavy lifting. Question 3, somehow I'm not able to agree with the official answer. Let's first of all understand what the question is. All of the following are needed if oil is to be extracted, except, it means that out of the 5 options, 4 options are that कि भाई ये तो चाहिए ही चाहिए, needed for oil extraction. अगर ये ना रहो तो आप ऑयल शायद निकाल ही नहीं पाओगे, है ना? दैट इज इट्स मीनिंग. तो ठीक है, वन बाय वन लेट्स एनालाइज. इन अ वे द क्वेश्चन आस्क्स अस कि आप ऐसे 4 ऑप्शन ढूंढ लो which is required for oil extraction and cut it out, है ना? Straightforward job. So let's see if we are able to proceed that way. Option A, an impermeable seal above the reservoir. Please refer to that diagram, red color. Yes, do we require this? Obviously, तभी तो जाके उस रेड के नीचे in the blue stone the oil will be trapped and we can extract it later on from there. Yes, A is needed, hence not the answer. B, an original source of hydrocarbons below the reservoir. Yes, obviously, तभी तो वहां से हाइड्रोकार्बन जब बन के ऊपर राइज होंगे तो they will get stuck in the reservoir. It will be permeable and उसके ऊपर में there needs to be a seal of some sort. So yes, B is also needed. Out. Jumping options right now. D, high permeability within the reservoir. Yes boss. जितनी ज्यादा परमिएबिलिटी रहे उतना ज्यादा क्रूड ऑयल कैन बी एब्सॉर्ब्ड इन दैट स्टोन, और जितना ज्यादा क्रूड ऑयल उसमें ट्रैप्ड रहेगा उतनी अच्छी बात है. वी विल ड्रिल एंड प्रॉम्प्टली टेक आउट ऑल दैट क्रूड ऑयल. वेल एंड गुड सो फार. यस, 3 तो चलो निकल गए. वी नीड टू थ्रो आउट 4. दिस इज वेयर थिंग्स गेट अ बिट मर्की. व्हाई इज दैट? आंसर ऑप्शन, ऑफिशियल आंसर ऑप्शन इज सी. ठीक है, So iska meaning kya hai? Please keep in mind, this is the official answer. I'm not still in agreement with it. By this, they are saying that this is needed. Okay. Now read this part once again. Presence of cracks and pores. यहाँ तक तो ठीक था. यहाँ चाहिए cracks and pores. तभी तो जाके hydrocarbons will rise from the depths of the earth and keep rising up, moving through the cracks and holes and whatnot. But where do they need it? In the Earth's crust? What is meant by the Earth's crust? The surface. हम पिज्जा खाते हैं ना, थिन क्रस्ट पिज्जा वगैरह जो होता है. What is that? The covering, the bread covering, जिसको हम खाते हैं और उसके ऊपर में फिर आपका टॉपिंग वगैरह होता है. Basically the surface of the bread. So if you have a lot of cracks and pores in the surface, in the crust of the earth, boss, that hydrocarbon will move out into the atmosphere. Na? Passage is actually talking about that. If that is the case, if that is the case, 1 second. They will be eventually reaching the surface and be lost. We cannot extract them unless they encounter impermeable rocks. So actually speaking, we don't really need presence of cracks and pores in the Earth's crust. Rather, cracks and pores jitne kam rahe utna acha. More and more crude oil will be trapped inside, right? Assuming that A, B, and D are there in place. So because of this, I am not able to, give a satisfactory answer for this question. My dilemma still stays here. You might be saying, "हम video solution देख क्यों रहे? आप तो answer ही नहीं दे रहे. You're not giving a proper explanation." So I'm just being honest with you. It's not my habit of ramming the explanations down your throat. I am still personally very much convinced. If it were up to me, I would mark option E as the answer and rather eliminate C. I think that this is needed. Because what does it say? High density contrast is needed between reservoir and seal. Yes, क्योंकि high density जब नहीं होता, when the density contrast is quite low, then we cannot extract the oil ना. तब तो दिक्कत जा रही है अपने को. The entire focus of fifth paragraph is on the same thing. ठीक है? So because of this reason, I think option E should be the answer and not C as given in the official solution. But anyway, chalo, let's move ahead. Last point, this is good. This is easy to handle. Based on points made by the author throughout the passage, what is the author ka view regarding seismology as a tool in locating hydrocarbons? Look, the author has been pretty straightforward with us regarding that structural traps में तो चलो कोई बात अड़ी नहीं है, कोई काम हो चुका है हमारा. But when it comes to stratigraphic traps, existing seismology tech has its limitation. The poor density contrast is not letting us filter out the noise, get good data, and start oil extraction. But closing remarks are very important. Author has said new technology hai boss. Or shayad they are showing promise. Shayad in near future we might just be able to succeed. So answer option will be obviously answer option A. Right? Yes, current tech is limited effectiveness, but it shows promise. Okay? Negative nahi hai author ka thought process. He is not being pessimistic or extremely critical about whatever is written. So that is why option B should be kicked out, option D should be kicked out, and E, because they're unnecessarily way too negative. Please keep in mind, the author has taken a lot of efforts to give this positive touch at the end. Okay? And option C, we can't go ahead with it because it is too optimistic. अरे बड़े सब चंगा सी अरे मस्त काम हो रहा है चल रहा है सब कुछ इफेक्टिव एंड प्रॉफिटेबल नो सर स्ट्रैटिग्राफिक ट्रैप में ये काम नहीं कर रहा है so C also gets thrown out. Okay, so I hope that you understood the explanation and please like, share, subscribe, comment your scores in the comment section. Let me know any doubts, difficulties that still remain, and I'll see you in the next one. Till then, tata, bye bye, and take care.